Okay, our next speaker is Komi Tsowou. He's an economist at the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. And just back in August, he was one of our guest speakers at the Trade with Africa Business Summit, this year, the virtual edition. And I basically told him that his presentation in terms of the depth of the technical knowledge that he shared is the best in terms of the technical aspects that I've seen. And the way I try to describe it is that AfCFTA is like a car, a supercar, that has been delivered to us. Now we have to uncover it and say, how does it work? How does it move? It's like we now have to look at the user manual in order in the business world to be able to leverage it. So Komi, it's such an honor to have you again. I know you have something to share with us, so do take over. Komi.
Let me share my screen. Can you see the screen, please?
Yes, yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you again, Toyin. Thank you. Thanks to all, Jean-Bertrand, Doc, Fafak, and others for attending. And I think it's always good opportunities to discuss with everyone here. So today I'm going quickly into some of the technical points in practice, how the AfCFTA will influence concretely some of the sectors. I will focus on a few sectors, of course, because I think the AfCFTA is a game changer. There are a lot of sectors that are going potentially to benefit from the AfCFTA. But in my presentation, I'm going to focus on few ones, and then we can, again, as Toyin said, we will continue the discussions within the trade community platform. So my name is Komi. I'm currently working with the Africa division of the UN Conference on Trade and Development, who has been a technical partner of the AUC, along with the UN Economic Commission for Africa, among others. To quickly, one of the key elements I really like to always show is how do we, as a continent in Africa, continue to depend on export of commodities. And the map you can see here, we have calculated the ratio of primary commodity export, including agricultural, minerals, oils, vis-a-vis total merchandise export. And by the ratio you can see in Africa, the ratio usually for most of the countries go beyond 60%. And most of the countries are within range of 80, 100%. And I think this is something you all know. And one of the key implications of this situation is that we usually as Africans suffer a lot of from the vagaries in the commodities market, which usually translate into volatility in prices and so and so. So that's one thing also I believe, and Jean-Bertrand mentioned that with the AfCFTA, the hope is that Africa will be able to add more value to its commodities before exporting them within Africa or with the rest of the world. Now, I'm not going into the AfCFTA framework because Jean-Bertrand has given us very detailed insight on that. But one key graph I want to show here on your left side is I computed the intra-African trade data. So in the blue, you will see that is the intra-African trade with regard to commodities, and in orange, intra-African trade with regard to manufactured goods. So what we are seeing here clearly is that among African countries, although the share of intra-African trade is low, what we trade most among ourselves are manufactured goods actually, which means we trade mainly commodities with the rest of the world. So the expectation is that with the push from the AfCFTA, whether to removal or reduction in tariffs and non-tariff barriers, there will be a push to the manufacturing sector. The figure you saw on the right, we have actually done at ECA, at the UN, which was also my previous institution, some simulation to see which sectors are likely to gain more from the AfCFTA. And what we have seen is actually industrial sectors that is likely to record more in terms of gain under the free trade area. We have also looked at the top 10 sectors that are likely to register or yield more gains within the AfCFTA framework. Of course, the first one is vehicle and transport equipment, because at present, most of our vehicle and transport equipment are imported from the rest of the world. But we have seen in recent years car manufacturer, big car manufacturer that are opening their hubs, production hubs in Africa, including, for example, South Africa, Northern Africa. We have also a planned new investment coming in Ghana, and so and so. The second product with high potential will related certainly to energy product, including oil, gas, and others, and their value-added product. We have few products, including sugar, chemicals, food products, wood and paper, milk and dairy, and textile, and so and so. So these are the top sectors with the AfCFTA when we look at a number of indicators, including tariffs, demand from the continent, and so and so. Now, moving to the next, what I want to show you here, I know I have put a lot of figures, but I really want to show you those facts. So in blue, it's what Africa currently imports within the continent. Vis-a-vis in red is what the continent imports from the world. So starting from petroleum oil, which is one of the biggest import, where Africa imports a lot from the world. And you can easily see here, despite the continent's endowment in terms of oil, crude oil, the import within Africa of processed oil is very limited vis-a-vis not even 20% approximately, vis-a-vis what is totally imported from the world. There are a number of other products, including motor vehicle and so spare parts. We even sugar. You can see that Africa imports a lot in terms of sugar from the rest of the world, vis-a-vis what is imported from within the continent. Rice, again, it's huge what we continue to import, mainly from Asia. Paper and paperboards, despite the huge potential in terms of wood product that can be processed into paper, the wood waste, we still rely a lot. When it comes to a number of other products, cotton, milk, cement, basically, it's what is showing clearly here is Africa, despite the rhetoric about industrialization and value addition, continue to depend mainly on the rest of the world. And what one lesson COVID has taught us is you become more vulnerable if you continue to depend to remote markets. So AfCFTA, in that sense, with having the potential to reduce Africa's import to the rest of the world through local or regional value chain, is likely to reduce also the continent's vulnerability to the rest of the world. If we also take, I've here in the comments, some companies producing shea butter and so and so. So anything that look at also cosmetics and others, the market is huge in Africa. I usually give one example. If you go to Cote d'Ivoire, cocoa butter is processed in Cote d'Ivoire and sold in a small bottle, maybe in small pack, for $1 to $2. The same bottle, when it's imported to Ethiopia, which has a big market, a demand for shea butter and others, that same bottle costs 3 to 4 times, almost $10. So that's clearly showing that the market exists in Africa for African product. But again, most of those, the issues that usually impede the trade beyond tariffs are mainly non-tariff barriers. If you want to ship a product from, a cosmetic product from Cote d'Ivoire or from Togo, Ghana, shea butter to Ethiopia, for example, you have to use airline, which is more costly. So how do we make sure we have maritime routes, for example, among African countries? These are some of the things we have to look at within the context of AfCFTA implementation. For me, I also see a huge opportunity in cocoa to chocolate value chain. I really enjoy this example, not only because we all love chocolate, but I think because Africa, including if you talk Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and some other countries, are the biggest producers of cocoa beans. But what we see on the first graph on our left here is actually how much is created along the cocoa value chains, from cocoa beans to cocoa paste, cocoa butter and powder, and then to the final product that is chocolate. And when you see, for example, in Cote d'Ivoire, most of the value, these are in percentage, most of the value, almost more than 70%, are created within the cocoa bean stage. And we all know that the higher values are not created at the lower stage, at the beans, but rather at the chocolate and cocoa butter and powder levels. At the same time, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brazil, which are also developing countries, are able to produce and retain, add more value to their cocoa product before they are exported toward regional and international market. So why are we in Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, Ghana, not able to produce, to add more value before we export those products? So there is a huge opportunity there, and a lot of countries, those producing countries, are now encouraging investors to really put their money into processing, into national markets before exporting them toward export market. But sometimes cocoa value chain is quite it's a bit special, because you want to keep product close to the export consumer market, which usually are still, the main one are still located in Asia, Europe, EU, and of course, US. So that's why sometimes we still see a lot of producing company located in those markets rather than Africa. But I think there is a huge potential in the value addition segment of the cocoa. And we have seen a number of investors, including African investors, whether in Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and even Togo, which is quite small in terms of market, but is also producing, adding a lot of values. The graph B, what is showing actually is what is being exported in regional market vis-a-vis a global market. And again, Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, and Ghana, they are doing poorly because they are not producing toward continental market or regional market, while Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brazil, they are producing more toward their regional market. So how can AfCFTA change the current status with regard to cocoa value chain is something we need to look at, and how the AfCFTA probably is likely the argument is likely to help African investors or investors from other countries also process more of those products within the continent. Second value chain or product sector I want to focus is medicinal and pharmaceutical product. Not only because COVID-19 has exposed the fragility of Africa's health system, including pharmaceuticals, to the rest of the world, but because when the COVID happened, and almost 80 countries have limited or banned export of medical supplies and some pharmaceutical products. So this has increased significantly, has put African continent at risk. Today, when we see what's happening in terms of imports or trades or production of pharmaceutical products, 95% of medicinal and pharmaceutical are coming from outside the continent. Despite, countries like South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, Egypt, Nigeria, and Zimbabwe having local industrial capacity to manufacture medicine, especially generic and essential medicine. So this is where one area where we will see a lot of, push as well, because I think the head of states are very aware of the issue, and they are likely to push to settle, to have a number of incentive to the investor to, really put the money and manufacture a lot of pharmaceutical products within the continent. Another area, sectors, industry I see as a huge potential is the woods industry. Mainly in Central Africa and Western Africa today, the predominance processing activity that's happening in the wood sector is still at the primary stage with sowing and rotary cutting in most of the countries. The secondary processing, which includes moldings, profiles, packet, and so on, so is happening. I was in Gabon, and Gabon has, for example, built a huge special economic zone dedicated mainly to the processing of wood product. But the tertiary wood processing, which is again is joinery and cabinet making, is where there is still a lot of potential that is not exploited. So this will bring a number of investment opportunities with expanded market through the AfCFTA. I think we will, in Africa, we need bigger wood processing facilities, companies like IKEA today, which is international company. So how do we create African IKEA? That is one of the key issues. And we hope the AfCFTA bring some solution to the investors. And of course, when we talk about the wood products, there is a huge potential for other byproducts, including pulp and paper. In terms of minerals and metals, there are a lot of potential as well. The pictures I'm showing here is what is being done in Gabon by one company that is processing manganese in Gabon to manganese metals and some other byproducts. So beyond South Africa, there are also, this is also to show that the mining, some countries are ready, they have invested a lot in getting energy or in supplying electricity so that those mining production hub can operate efficiently. So it's not, in the dream anymore. These are things that are happening across the continent. In oil sectors, we all know that, what the figures are showing is we continue to export mainly crude petroleum, while at the same time, we import a lot as Africa refined petroleum product. I know, as you all know, Nigeria, Dangote has been taking steps towards, refining petroleum oil. But I think beyond Dangote, we should have other, investors that should able to put a lot of money into processing of petroleum. Beyond that, I think because we have seen increases a lot in vehicle and others over the past year, and this trend will continue to also increase. I'm seeing a lot of potential as well in base oil and lubricant for car and other machinery products. For example, estimates, puts forward that the African car market is likely to grow from 45 million in 2018 to over 135 million cars by 2040. So there is a huge demand for lubricant as well. Over the next probably 5 years, there are expectations that lubricant demand will increase from 1.7 million tons to 2 million. So these are critical areas where there is a huge demand. Services, I'm not going to take time on it because we all know, and this has been said by Jean-Bertrand as well, service today we are recording a huge servicification of whether trade, manufacturing sectors, and so and so. So services sectors are really enabler of the AfCFTA as well, from digital to energy, health, education, finance, tourism, infrastructure, and so and so. So to conclude quickly, what I want to point here is, yes, it's very important to look at all the dimensions of trade and production, from investment, trade facilitation, trade infrastructure, and for countries, import defense. How do you also make sure you are assisting, you provide necessary support to some of those sectors to grow? In terms of tariff schemes, I think Jean-Bertrand mentioned that countries have to open, their market when it comes to intra-African trade, reduction of tariffs over a certain period, till total dismantlement, rule of origins, which are very critical to tell you exactly under which condition a product that is processed within the continent will then be able to benefit from the tariff advantage within the AfCFTA. So as you know, not all the products will get the preferential treatment under the AfCFTA. They have to contain a minimum of values to be able to trade freely under the continent. The percentage of value content in terms of what value it has to contain that originate from the continent may vary to product 30% to 45%. So it really depends. Once the rule of origins are finally concluded, I think you will be able to really see what is required from each of the products. But of course, there will be some challenges because today there are a number of trade agreements signed, ratified by African countries. So how do you play among, those trade rules are going to be important. But for the private sectors, what I really want to insist on is market prospection. I think is critical. There are a number of trade fairs, including, for example, the Intra-African Trade Fair, organized now every year by the Afreximbank. There are a number of trade exhibition conferences to build awareness vis-a-vis what the AfCFTA is offering. Countries' competitiveness, I think one of the key important decisions for the diaspora or for any investor is to see within the AfCFTA market, within the continent, where to invest. What will then be the determinants of investment among African countries? You will have labor. For example, Ethiopia has a huge advantage in terms of a cost of labor. In other countries like Kenya, it's really, you have more expensive labor, but you have access to, for example, digital tools and instruments and so and so. So it will be very important, even when you go to West Africa, can you, where to produce? Will you set your factory in Togo and Ghana and then focus, or target Nigerian, Cote d'Ivoire, Malian market? So these are some of the things that will be possible under the AfCFTA, beyond even the ECOWAS market when you are operating in West Africa. You'll be able even to target South African market, Namibia, Cameroon. So, so market prospects will be very important, but also the decision to where to invest. And I really want to emphasize here on the implementation, because I think the private sector is the one that has to produce toward AfCFTA market. And I quickly want to show you one of the online tool that that was mentioned by Jean Bertrand, which is being developed by African Union in support by the UN Conference on Trade and Development. So basically, this is an online mechanism that anyone can access and register and any complaint you might have when it comes to non-tariff barriers. But for example, you are blocked for any reason at the border, you can fill the form, and then automatically the focal point in your country will be able to see the kind of complaint you are raising and contact the vis-a-vis, the partner in the import countries, to see how they can quickly resolve the issue. So the AfCFTA is not a dream. So there are a number of instruments, I think Jean Bertrand also mentioned them, that are being developed or developed already to support intra-African trade as well as production. I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is amazing. Thank you. And I know you've shared and sent that to me. We're also going to make this information available to everyone on our network, the Trade with Africa network. So thank you for that. On that, I'm going to move on to the next speaker. We're going to come to questions at the end of all the presentations. So thank you, Komi, again. I know you're joining us from Addis. What's the time now in Addis?
It's 6:30 p.m., but it's still okay.
It's still okay. Yeah, the last time it was like 9:10 p.m.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm good.